Hey guys, my name is Vivian Reed and welcome to my channel. Now, before we get started, don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to like and say nice things if you're going to make a comment. You know, we like nice things. All right, this special lady today, conversation with this woman is going to be amazing. First of all, she's a singer, an actress, a nightclub performer, a concert performer, a recording artist, and a bunch of other things. She has been in this business for a while, and she is a remarkable, absolutely remarkable performer. And her name is Bertilla Baker. How you doing, Bertilla?
I'm doing great, Vivian. How are you? It's so good to see you.
Oh, so good to see you. So, Bertilla, let's start. Let's talk about nightclub because I saw your act when you were introducing your then new CD, and
Uh-huh.
your act was amazing. So, for the young people watching, not everyone wants to go into theater. They may want to put a nightclub act together.
Uh-huh.
Now, we're talking to young people who don't have a clue, or maybe to an older person who may need a bit of guidance. Maybe they want to just change and do something different. How
hmm
should they go about the basics of putting a nightclub act together?
You have to put this, first of all, choose songs that you really love.
Oh,
Choose songs that speak to you personally. A nightclub act and a jazz gig. So those are two different animals, and you approach them different ways. So let's start with a nightclub. First of all, start with songs that you sound good on. Songs that you're going to be comfortable with, songs that you love. Then think of some kind of a concept. What do you want to say overall? What do you want your message to be? You could like just do songs from the 30s or something, and you could talk about the history of the 30s and 1930s, and you could be specific in New York City, or even more specific in Harlem during the Harlem Renaissance or something like that. There's all kinds of ways you can approach a nightclub act. You should have an overall concept for a nightclub act. And it can be something like, a 30s theme or a Broadway theme. Or you could do a composer, take a composer you like and do songs. And then you mix it up with a variety of things. You want to have real show-stopping numbers that you'll do like toward the end of the nightclub act, something really startling and surprising for your beginning, and then also mix in some songs that are very, very tender, very delicate, so that you bring the audience right in and you reach right out and you touch their hearts, because that's really what you want to do. You want to tell stories that touch people's hearts where they live and
you,
mean it.
I think that is so important when you are putting a show together. You have to deal with the different emotions. You want to make that audience feel. You want to carry them through the ups and downs. Everything can't
Mm-hmm.
be an 11 o'clock number, meaning big,
No.
like how you
Right.
would end your show.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have dynamics in your show
Mm-hmm.
so that you have valleys, and mountains. You said something a few minutes ago. You have to love. I love every song that I sing.
Me
You,
too.
I mean, I love, well, first of all, I love show business, and I think that's important. You have to
Mm-hmm.
want to do this and love it. And there is a
Mm-hmm.
plethora of material that you can
Oh my God.
choose from, but you want to choose material that you have a connection with. And then,
Mm-hmm.
Bertilla, there's the patter that goes
Mm-hmm.
in between songs. You don't want
Yes.
to maybe talk after every song, but you have to talk. You have to speak to
Yes.
your audience. You want to speak
Mm-hmm.
on that for a minute, Bertilla.
Well, I would plan some things to say, because God knows in the heat of the moment, you could get to the end of a song and you know what you're going to sing next, but you're like, uh, for my next song, I'd like to do.
Well,
So you,
let's talk about that because I've got pet peeves. For my next song or this song
you
I'm going to sing, it goes something like this, or this next song, I hope you like it. Girl, those three things I cannot stand, but go ahead.
that's why I use that as an example, because that's like the audience is now going to say, she doesn't know what to say.
Mhm.
She may be a great singer, but she doesn't know how to talk to me.
Yes.
And frankly, for me, that's always been a difficult thing. And that's something that I admire greatly about you, because
Oh,
you really know how to hold the audience
thank you.
and bring them along in a way that they love you.
Oh, thank you, sweetheart. But you know what? And speaking about talking to an audience, I went and I saw a show a couple years ago. This wonderful, wonderful singer. And the person who invited me, I was sitting in the booth next to him. And during this woman's show, she had about three or four, no, maybe more than that. She had about 4 or 5 pregnant pauses because he had written this show for her and she memorized it to the point of death. Why is that dangerous?
Mm,
There's a difference between memorizing for a nightclub and memorizing in theater. Theater, okay, this is the script, this is what you have to say. When you do that in nightclub, an audience wants to feel. And I've like I said, I've been to your show, and you're very comfortable when you're talking to the audience. I think the danger that a nightclub performer gets in is when you have memorized every word, and what happens if those nerves kick in and you forget one word? You got a pregnant pause
yep.
because you've memorized it. What I do,
Right.
Bertilla, and I want to find out what you do. What I personally do is I know the gist of what I want to say. All of my shows are
Yes.
scripted. So I'll look at them, and as long as I set my song up with the pattern, the kind of pattern that is necessary for the song that's coming, then it may not be exactly as I wrote it, but it's the gist. So that if anything happens, I'm okay. You
Right.
know, and yes, I am good at speaking extemporaneously, and not everybody can do that, granted, and I understand
Mm-hmm.
that. But my analogy is when somebody calls your ass up to talk on the phone, you just start talking. So if you
Right.
could treat that audience like they're
Your
friends of
friend.
yours in your living room, it makes it so much easier. Okay, go ahead, Bertilla. Tell me what you do.
I have an idea of what I'm going to say, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily script it unless there's a really funny, good line
Yes.
that I can put in there. Like I remember you, the thing you do when you're going down toward the floor, Laura and Laura.
Oh, when I try to get this thing on the floor, and I say it with something like I used to put this all the way down or something like that. I say it.
Right, yeah. And it would come out different every night because
Yes.
the audience doesn't know this, but I sang backgrounds for you a couple times.
She was great too.
Such a
Great.
thrill. And
Thank
I
you.
love to watch you in action, man. You're a
Thank
force
you.
of nature. Just
Thank you.
brilliant. But yeah, it's funny things like that, like you knew about what you were going to say about that, hoochie coochie going down to the floor and how much easier it used to be when you were 20 or something like that. But
Well, I think the whole thing is to make your audience feel at home. I think
yes.
if things are too mechanical
Yeah.
and the audience can see the blocking, that means,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I said I was going to go over the stage right, so here I go. No. Everything
Mm-hmm.
should be natural, should be
Yes.
comfortable. Because the more
Yeah.
comfortable you are on stage, the more comfortable your audience will be and the more
Right.
relaxed they will be. I mean,
Yes.
when you did your
Yes.
CD, your CD release party, was there anything scripted or you just talked about I'm trying to remember. I think you spoke on making the CD cuz you're it was all jazz, which is what I know
Yeah.
you do, and you're so great at it. Did you really have to spend much time in what you were going to say and be before each song?
No, that was not scripted at all.
Okay.
But I was excited about all of the songs. So without sounding like too pedantic or anything, I would just tell the audience a little bit about the songs and the
Mm-hmm.
composer, and I would make jokes with people who I saw in the audience who I liked, who I knew was there, but that was not scripted. It
It was so good.
was the
That
heat of the
show,
moment.
yeah, well, that show was absolutely
Oh,
fabulous. But let's just say it's not
thank
your
you.
CD release party. It's just you doing your nightclub act. Do you
Uh-huh.
write? Do you script the show then?
If it's for a nightclub act, I would script certain things, but not tightly scripted, just like I would have an
Yes.
idea of what I'm going to say
Say.
between songs. And some songs just fit so perfectly that you really shouldn't say anything between them. And you
Yes.
should know that too in advance.
Okay, so let's jump over to a gig, a
Uh-huh.
jazz gig where
Uh-huh.
what you have so many sets a night.
Yeah,
So
depending
how
on.
many sets? Okay, what do you do? How many sets about do you do?
I live in Costa Rica now. Ha, don't hate me. And it's different here. We You only do two sets. Like,
Okay. Only do two
yeah.
sets. What do you normally do? Oh Lord. Three and four sets?
Yeah, three. You in New York, it's like, 40 minutes on, 20 minutes off.
Oh,
Or
okay.
basically, or
Okay.
45 minutes on, depending on the club owner. I like 40 on, 20 off.
Is there that much dialogue then that you're doing on sets like that when you're doing jazz gigs?
It depends on how I feel. It depends,
Mm-hmm.
I'll maybe joke around with the musicians or something, or joke around with the audience, or say a little something about a song to set it up. Say if you've just done, like, say the beginning, like you're 2, 3 songs into this set. The first one is like a real up tempo, bouncy thing, and then you go to like a medium swing. Okay, now I want to switch it up. Say I want to do a ballad like Lonely House.
Mm-hmm.
It's a theater song. You just have to slow down how you speak. Maybe you can count the band off, and they'll start the introduction quietly in the background, and you can maybe say a little something, or maybe not. You might not have to say anything. You want to bring them in so you can tell the story, which brings me to the other thing that is probably the most important aspect on either a jazz gig or a nightclub act or on Broadway or anything else. The lyrics of songs are poetry, and they tell a
Yes.
story. So you have to tell the story as if the person listening to you has never heard it before.
Mm-hmm.
So you start it like it's new for you too. So you start with an idea, and then you build on that, and then there's a new idea. And then there's another idea, and they all add up to tell the story of the song.
I always say that you have to definitely what you said. You have to become one with those lyrics. You have
Mm-hmm.
that song has to have a meaning for you. You just can't
Mm-hmm.
sing
Mm-mm.
something and don't know what it's all about. And like I have
Right.
said many times before, you could give that one song to 10 singers and they may all come out with a different meaning, each of them, but it's a
Right.
meaning nonetheless.
Right.
You have to have a reason for singing what you're singing. Because if
Yes.
you don't understand what you're singing, the audience they won't get it. You're showing them absolutely nothing. So you are absolutely right that to me the
Mm-hmm.
lyrics are almost the most important thing in song delivery. Know your
Absolutely.
lyrics and know the meaning. But getting back to doing a jazz gig, that not everybody's cut out for that because
No.
that is a different beast from
Mm-hmm.
doing a nightclub. And you're absolutely right to point out those differences. If you cannot deal with people walking around, perhaps if they're doing that, or making noise, perhaps if they're doing that while you're singing, maybe that's not for you.
Maybe
Because
not.
there is a difference. Now, Bertilla, what do you do? Because obviously you make songs your own. When you are starting to work on a piece of music, and what do you do about the arrangement? Do you sit down and put thought into it? What do you do? What's your approach?
Well, I do sit down and put thought into it. And sometimes I come up with the arrangement all by myself, but the inspiration of the accompanists. And when we're working on a song, I will say, try this, and we'll see if that works. And if it doesn't, scratch it. Let's, move on to something else. I like to do things that you're not expecting. It's always good to
Yes.
surprise your audience too. Audiences love to be surprised. And there should be a surprise in every phrase, every corner. You should be surprising the audience every chance you get.
But here again, we're talking about something fresh. To me, I really don't like when singers copy the original person who either
Nope.
recorded it. You have to find your voice, your way of doing it. It's like I tell my musicians, you may recognize if it's a new musician and they never played for me before, and they say, "Oh, I know this." I said, "No, you don't." I said, "All you know is that title." Because
Mm-hmm.
I change everything. Of course, you want to keep the integrity of the piece. You want
Mm-hmm.
to keep what the composer wrote in terms of the melody, but you want to bring a freshness to it so that that audience will say, "Oh, I never heard that song like that. Wow." That's
Yes,
what you want,
exactly
that
right.
exactly what you said, that wow factor. Sit down and think me um before I bring my conductor over to chart it, because that's what he does. He charts all of my arrangements. I do my own arrangements. I know exactly basically what I want the bass to do. I know what the I want the piano to do. It's not that I don't allow my conductor slash arranger any input, but if he is going to have input from me, he has to think outside the box. I don't do normal at all. I don't do normal at all. So it is important that for me in working with me, if you want to offer suggestions, that you think outside the box. Other than that, I don't need you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's
Right.
how my bass is going to go. This is what. But I don't mind. I don't mind other ideas, but they have to be, even if you think it's crazy, let me hear it. Because you're
Mm-hmm.
crazy, I might like. But your
That's right.
normal, guaranteed, I won't like.
Right. Yeah.
Anything that's been done,
Eh.
you can't
It's
end the
been
song with
done.
me like that. Oh no, you
Been
cannot.
done.
Been
Right.
done, been there, been there, done that. Have you ever kept a recorder near your bed and, like, say you thought of something for a song that you're working on? Ooh, this might be nice, and then recorded it into the recorder. Have you ever done that?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Or have a notebook handy,
Yep.
so you can write down ideas. But yeah, yes, I have.
That
Or
is
if it didn't happen to be there, I'll get up and go get it.
That is very important, you guys watching. Just keep your phone, which most phones have recorders on, just keep it near your bed. You may have a thought.
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily have to know music theory or be that well educated in music to be able to come up with ideas. You can hum what you're
Mm-hmm.
hearing in your head that
Exactly.
you think will work
Mm-hmm.
for that song that you're working on. Just hum it into the recorder so that when you bring that person over who is going to do your charts for you or your lead sheets or whatever you're going to have done, you can say,
Mm-hmm.
"Okay, I've recorded this." And trust me, they will understand because it happens all the time. Some of the
Mm-hmm.
biggest hits by some big superstars, a lot of them are not musically educated,
No.
but they have their phones, they have recorders next to
Right.
their bedside, or like Bertilla said, they'll write something down if they come up with a lyric. And a lot of times I will take a song and maybe make a detour in that song and inject something original also as
Mm-hmm.
part of that song, and then get back to the original. So there are so many ways that you can bring freshness to what you're
Absolutely.
doing, but the travesty is if you don't try and you
Mm-hmm.
become a lazy performer. You don't want to be known for that. You want people to
Right.
say, "You know what? So and so was coming to town and she or he usually does something really fresh and good. I think I'm going to go check them out."
Mm-hmm.
This is the reputation you want to have. Go ahead, Bertilla.
And to the point of what you were saying, you don't have to have a whole lot of music theories. Anthony Newley
Mhm.
couldn't read a note of music,
Mhm.
and he wrote "Stop the World, I Want to
Fan
Get Off."
roar of the
Did
grease
the
paint, smell of the crowd.
There you go. He didn't
Mhm.
read a note of music, and he would
Mhm.
hum it.
Mhm.
And he'd have people chart it for him. So yes,
Mhm.
it can be done. I've done that.
So
I don't have a whole lot of music theory myself.
So, Bertilla, let's get to the point, and not everyone will be able to do this maybe in the early part of their career. But when you decide that you're going to record, you're going to make music either to be streamed or you're going to actually make a CD to sell after your show, What is your process? Is it the same as if you're putting a show together? Or you're picking those songs that you want to record? You're coming up with arrangements, because I know you helped me a lot in terms of me doing my Standerton Moore CD. Telling me, okay, you have to get the rights to do these songs, and so I
Right.
went through that whole thing. Speak on
Hmm.
that a bit.
Well, to put together the CD, my first thing was I'm going to own the masters. I'm paying for this thing. I can do whatever I want.
That's right.
So I picked the songs that I absolutely love. And, then I started honing in. And the name of the CD,
Yeah.
plug, is
Plug,
Moving
plug.
On. Moving On. MOVIN apostrophe on. And it's kind of symbolic because the CD launch happened the day before we moved to Costa Rica. So I was really moving on. And then I realized that as I was putting it together, that all of the songs, and this is like an unconscious, but all of the songs were like reaching for something and not quite getting it, like A Fine Romance, which I did the arrangement for, and it's like a fine romance with no kisses. But I did it with drum hits on the upbeat, so it's a fine romance with no kisses. Only fast, fine romance, kisses, a fine romance. This is to be like, and then
I
it
remember
started to
that
swing,
song in your show. It was wonderful.
Thank you. And and that's just one little idea. Okay, we're going to do drum hits and then go into a swing thing. So you can take something that's like a stone standard and make it fresh. So all of the songs were like about reaching for something and not quite getting it, not reaching for it, not quite getting. And then the last song on the album was Moving On. It's like, I'm tired of people pulling my strings, tired of doing this. I'm taking my life in my own hands and I'm moving on. So it's basically like a song of self empowerment
Hmm.
to make that big change. So it led somewhere. The whole thing. Once I got it together, I was like, oh yeah, these are songs about reaching for something that you can't quite get, and then ultimately you make the decision to move on.
But also too, in recording, you don't. And I've spoken on this in one other conversation. You don't have the benefit of someone or an audience watching you. That means
Oh
that
yeah.
how you sing that song, the depth that you bring to that song has to come across so that anyone hearing it will feel, will have a feeling, some kind of feeling about how you're
Mm-hmm.
singing that song,
Yeah.
because
Now
they
that's a
can't,
whole
see you.
can't see me, right? So you have to sing as if you're
That's right.
singing to a blind person,
Mm-hmm.
you
That's
know,
right.
and there's a real rich intimacy in recording. That's a whole other kettle of fish.
Mm-hmm.
You do have the luxury of stopping and
Yes.
and okay, I don't like how I did that. So you take another pass and you take another pass and you take another pass. And my poor my poor husband came to a session once. He was like, "You do that all the time? That's how
Yeah.
that's how they do it." And I was like, "Yeah, honey."
Yeah.
And then the mixing session was even more laborious,
Mm-hmm.
of tweaking this and tweaking that, bringing this up, bringing that down. It's just, hours
I,
and hours and hours and hours and hours.
you know what, Bertilla? I think bottom line, and we can close out on this, is that first of all, like we have said throughout these conversations, is if you have to be as professional as you can be. Develop strong work ethics from the beginning at your
Absolutely.
tender age. None of this is going to fall into your lap. It's not going to descend on you. You have to put in the work. When I say that, and you alluded to this, no matter what you're doing, whether it's theater, nightclubs, jazz gigs, no matter what, straight plays, whatever. Performance is performance is performance. You
That's
have to
right.
believe in what you are doing, and then you have to apply yourself. You know you have lyrics to learn, learn them. Dig into the meaning of them so that they
Mm-hmm.
become a part of you.
Mm-hmm.
Because only until you do that will you realize what your potential might possibly be. It'll be
Right.
virtually impossible. I
Right.
become, and I know you do too, Bertilla, I become one with whatever I'm delivering on stage. It's just in me.
Mm-hmm.
I go somewhere within that song. Every
Mm-hmm.
song is a moment. I don't have throwaway songs. Even though I may not be singing double forte in every song, the song could be soft all the way through. But nonetheless, I'm still committed
Mm-hmm.
because it's the dynamic that I chose for that particular song. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
there 1,000%. I'm there in
Mm-hmm.
every moment, every song in your show, everything that you do should be a moment unto itself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You have to understand what that is. And if you're not
Mm-hmm.
willing to work that hard, this is probably not the business for you. Not to say that there aren't people in this business, professionals in this business, who could give a rat's ass. They're in it for the money. And
Mm-hmm.
you can tell. You can tell when you go see
Yeah.
them, when you go see their act. You know, nothing great, nothing. And would I go see that person again? Nope. I'll
Right.
see you one time, give you a chance. If you're not giving me something of you, I'm not going to go back and see
Mm-hmm.
you again. I'm not going to waste my time going back to
Right.
see you. You want to speak on that a bit, Bertilla?
Right. I don't want to see your Whitney Houston imitation.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Oh, Lord. Or you're Mariah Carey.
No.
We
And
want
I
to
don't
see
want
you.
to I don't want to hear you reproduce Mariah's licks. I don't want to hear
Yes.
you imitate the record. That's not Mariah already did it and she did a damn good job.
And did a damn good job.
So you have to be yourself. You have to know your strengths, you have to know your limitations, and you have to commit. And
Yes.
even before you even get to the songs, can we talk about the breathing?
Mmm.
Oh,
Yep.
I have chased away students who thought I worked too hard on the breathing.
It's important.
It's everything. It's everything. I mean, we were talking about all this other stuff like it's everything, but really, the breathing is everything. And some
Diaphragmatic
people
breathing,
think they're
breathing from
yeah,
down there.
yes, and all the whole muscle group that's
Yep.
underneath the diaphragm, and the intercostal muscles that swing your rib cage out and stay there, so you have a huge, nice rib reserve while you're singing, so you can sing from the diaphragm and you can sing a nice long phrase, ah, la, and you can just keep going and going and going because you won't run out of air because you have strength at your intercostal muscles, so you have a huge rib reserve. Now we're getting really technical here, but
Well, yeah,
it's
but you,
important.
but I think a good example is Beyonce. When I was in Pittsburgh, I was in the car and I had just picked up her newest CD, and I think this was either after she did the movie Dreamgirls or before. I can't remember. When she started to sing "Listen," I said, "Wait a minute now." I pulled the car over to the curb because to sing "Listen," she had to have taken voice lessons
Hmm.
because that song is a beast. Her phrases, the way she was holding the phrases, her delivery, her dynamics. Now, yes, the girl always could sing, but not that way. And just as I thought, she had started taking voice lessons.
See,
She had
yeah, if
studied.
you
She had
some people
studied.
she can have you won't know your true potential
That's right.
unless you study with a good teacher who can teach you all these really picky and things like how to breathe and how
Mm-hmm.
what muscle groups to use and how to be working really hard
Mm-hmm.
from here down.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm. Yep.
this is just along for the ride.
Yes. Yep.
Otherwise you'll hurt yourself, you'll kill
Yep.
yourself, you'll destroy your own career.
So it's important to find the operative word, good, a good teacher,
Yeah, there
you
are some
know.
crappy ones
And
out there.
then there are a lot of crappy ones out there. You are absolutely right. But having said that, you have to also put in the work. They can give you the guidance,
Absolutely.
tell you what you have to do, but if you don't go home and
Uh-huh.
practice those vocal leads, do what you have to do because these are muscles. Those folds, those
Mm-hmm.
vocal folds are muscles. You must strengthen them. That means practicing every day, vocalizing every day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I was in classical music, I vocalized a minimum of 2 hours a day. I'm not telling you to do that. I mean, I was a classical singer.
Yeah,
But I'm
that's no
just
joke.
saying, you have to put in the work, just like what uh, classical dancers have to do, ballet dancers. It's the same thing. If you want to
Absolutely.
become great at what you do, you have to put in the work. You can't escape it.
You can't. And some of it is really, really tedious, like the
Yes.
breathing exercises and the vocalies. It can be boring as snot, but if
Mm-hmm.
you don't do it, you're shortchanging yourself. You're not going to reach your full potential. And I
No,
can tell.
I
You think
can too.
if I've given you something to do and you come back the next week and you're still at the same level, I know
Same
you didn't
level.
practice. I know you didn't
Just
practice.
like a girl,
Busted.
one of my students, a lot of them are not doing diaphragmatic breathing. They're still breathing from up here because this is how we
Mm-hmm.
come out of our mama's womb. We're all breathing
Mm-hmm.
up here until we learn otherwise. I give them the exercise. My teacher had me on the floor with telephone books on my stomach. I teach on the chair leaning
Mm-hmm.
forward. But how you arrive at diaphragmatic breathing is it is exercises and you have to do them every day. And usually you will get it after a while. But
Mm-hmm.
you have to do it every day. If you're still breathing from up here, I know after about, say, you're in your third or fourth week with me and you still doing this from up here, I know that you haven't worked, that you haven't practiced, that you
Mm.
haven't done those exercises. That's all we
Yes.
really want to see is that you're improving. But if you're
Yes.
not improving, I don't
You're not
know that
working.
you're not working. So listen, sweetheart, do you have any final words for anybody watching?
Just step out there and do it. Don't be afraid.
Yes.
See that little judge inside of your head? Tell him to shut up and go away. Because it's creative time. And what you do in studio with your arranger, with your vocal coach, that's where you make your mistakes. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. Be loud and wrong and get it, because only when you're loud and wrong will you get it beautiful and true and correct and
Yes.
moving. So just be daring, be courageous, and pick and sing songs you love. Sing them the way
Yes.
you sing them from your heart and tell the story.
Tell the story. Oh, Bertilla, that was great. Thank you so much, Miss Bertilla Baker, for doing this. Thank you so much.
Vivian, it's such an honor for you to even ask me to be a part of this. I'm so
Oh,
grateful to you, and I love
well,
you, girl.
I love you too because you're so special, so very, very special, and you have made such a strong contribution as a singer, a professional in this business. And to all of you who have
Thank
watched
you.
this video, thank you so much, and keep checking back for new videos. So until the next time, say bye bye, Bertilla. See you
Bye.
the next time. Okay.
Bye, Viv.
Bye.